This is the Board of Selectmen regular meeting for Wednesday, January 31st, 2018. This meeting is being shown live as we speak, and will be recorded and shown on Channel 9 throughout the week. Also, if anybody is recording or anything, need to let me know. And secondly, anybody that wishes to speak, I request that you be recognized by the chair before speaking. Okay? And we will be going into executive session at the end of this meeting. Okay? Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Any public input? No public except for Mr. Borkins?
Mr. Chairman, I have one item. I spoke with Chief McDonald today, and I just want to commend the 3 Dayton police officers who approximately 2 years ago were involved with capturing 5 individuals involved with a home invasion. It's been quite a while, but I commend them because they did an excellent job. The 5 individuals finally have gotten through the judiciary process and are facing 3 to 5 years in jail for that action. I'm purposely not mentioning the town employees because I don't want them to become targets, but I think everybody needs to know this board, and I'm sure the people in town, express thanks, appreciation for a job well done, and for following us through to the end. So thanks, guys.
Absolutely, Seth. We thank you, and we have a great public safety group. And I think it also points out the fact that even though we're a small town, bad stuff can happen in small towns. So we appreciate all that you do, police and fire, and everybody else. But
Yeah.
okay. Okay, appointments. Discuss bond rating and approve award of bond for the police station.
So actually, I'm a little ahead of myself. This will be next week, but I would like to discuss the bond rating and give a little bit of kudos and good job to our town accountant, Jennifer Louise, and our treasurer, Mary Hathaway. We worked, Jen did lots of work to prepare us for our call with a rating agency. So as has been discussed before, the town doesn't really have a credit history, so while the school's borrowing did reflect favorably on the town, we needed our own rating in order to go out for bond, which she's doing this week. So that's why I said I'm a little ahead of myself, but we are going out to bond and getting our rating, and our rating was AA3, which is pretty good. So good job. And stay tuned for next week when we're actually going to award the bond for the police station. Sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you. And thanks to Ms. Louise and Mrs. Hathaway for your hard work, and our town administrator as well.
They did yeoman's work, so it's all on them.
Okay.
Next is me. Okay, so network connectivity and security. I've been looking at this since I got here, and I just wanted to let you know that I've contacted our current company who we use for data and all of that for quotes, and as well as another competitor, just to have a network assessment done to see what our strengths are, what our needs are, and assess all of our buildings, fire included, police if they'd like. So I'm just letting you know I am working on that, and it'll come up again. Also, Building Inspector Jim Aguiar is looking at a wireless drop for downstairs because of the cement structure that is Town Hall. Wireless connectivity is lacking a little bit downstairs, so he's looking at installing a wireless drop, and that, I believe, is to be done either this week or next.
Okay, great.
And that will help us as we move things around. And then Borges Brothers, so when we have inclement weather, there's always seeming to be a question about whether trash is delayed or not. So we've contacted Borges Brothers, the trash pickup people, and we've asked them to put together a holiday schedule as well as a notification to users what happens when there's inclement weather. They've done that. It's posted online. We shared it on Facebook so that everyone could see it, but it is just a link on our Facebook, our website, excuse me, and I just foresee us sharing it once it comes up again, but that is accessible if you want to save it to your own personal computers and just always have it, you know, stick it on the fridge, what have you. So that is my report.
Okay, under old business, the first item of business is no longer relevant, so we will pass over that. Financial statement.
I'm sorry, I can give you an update that the planning board, I believe, is going to repost for this position. They're not, oh,
No,
okay.
No, they're not, they
No.
don't take the four they had, I think.
At the meeting this past Monday night.
Right.
Which was broadcast live, if anyone wants to watch it. The motion to repost and re-advertise was defeated, so Mr. Benvey was going to contact the four they've screened it to and see if they're still interested, and if they are,
Yes.
they're going to set up interviews. If they are not interested, they will repost and re-advertise, or if the interviews fail to come up with a acceptable candidate, I would say, then they will repost and re-advertise. But right now, it's interviews.
They, so they did reach out to those four individuals.
Mr. Benvey was going to do that Tuesday, that's what he said.
Right, and so two, I believe, and I'm going to verify my information because I think maybe some wires are crossed. But two, one was still interested and could make it, and then the other remaining three either had some questions about it, whatever, and were not kind of solidified. So today, this afternoon, Mr. Benvey had indicated he was going to repost.
Okay.
So, you know what?
We'll wait to hear from the
We'll
planning
wait,
board,
we'll
yeah.
wait to see what they do. Financial statement. Let's see, back in December, I came to you as we were getting ready for this bond rating call and council, and developed a financial statement. Selectman Goulart did provide some edits. Those have been incorporated. The Finance Committee met on this and did not have any changes. Well, excuse me, they did not meet, but the chairman did. I heard specifically from one member, and the chairman spoke to a couple others. Nobody had any changes, so this is now on your desk for your review to edit as you see fit. And this is a precursor to a full-out financial policy. That takes a lot of going back and forth. It is basically what you're doing now, the 7 to 12% for stabilization, the 7 to 12% of the budget for stabilization reserves is a policy recommended by DOR and something that you have followed for quite some time. So this is just putting on paper what you've always done, and will help us in the future improve our rating even after we start making payments on the police station bond.
Okay, great. Okay, the next order of business is to discuss the formation of a cannabis policy task force. Brett, you want to address that one?
So when I went to the MMA trade show, I did go to the marijuana law seminar, and then I happened to go through the trade show exposition, and I ended up meeting a couple different individuals from WM Policy, and they gave me a book with a couple of pamphlets on the impending dates for when the Cannabis Control Commission will begin accepting applications, which is April 1st. So in lieu of having a discussion amongst ourselves about, you know, what our position is going to be with the town, I think it's best based on my conversation with the consultants from WM Policy, and after reviewing their information booklet, they actually have a recommended process for advancing local cannabis policies. And they don't say one way or the other what they're specifically for as a company, but they do say that the best way to get things done in either direction, whichever tack the town wants to take, is to form a commission. And it's sort of, I think they consider it to be sort of like a bipartisan commission, where you have a mix of appointed individuals on different boards in the town. You also have public safety officials. You can or cannot include medical marijuana users, for example. But I think that having a task force or committee, you know, whatever word you'd like to use for that, is probably the best way to go forward. I have spoke informally to Chief McDonald and to Chief McGee, who have both intimated, outright told me that they'd be happy to serve. And just for everybody watching, the point of having our public safety officials on this committee is not to have them give us their opinions on whether they're for or against it. It's merely to inform us of any public safety issues that we may need brought to our attention that without their expertise and knowledge and insight and experience, we may not consider. So it's to give a well-rounded framework for any policies or procedures or direction that the town may take. And again, I'm not giving my personal opinion. I really think that this is best in the hands of a task force. And the reason I'm not giving my opinion is simply because I'm not sure which way the town would like to take on this. And so I really think that we should keep this with,
I would agree.
with a bipartisan committee or commission.
And there is some deadlines, if you will, that are coming up pretty rapidly that we need to act upon, so that we can control how recreational marijuana does or does not impact our town. So
Or
I
if
think
we
that-
even want it
That's
as
what I
well.
mean.
Yep.
So, do you have recommendations for the membership of the task force?
So okay, so I'll read what this,
I'm sorry. Before we get there, I just had a question. You're attending, and Selectman Goulart is also attending, I'm attending this public hearing, basically just to educate ourselves on those deadlines and the regulations
Absolutely.
coming.
This is at
In your-
UMass
I'm
Law?
sorry, yes,
Yep.
at UMass, next week on Tuesday. In your discussions with this group, did they mention that at all? Like, is this supposed to go hand in hand? Is this just, I guess, yes. Is this supposed to go hand in hand?
You mean the task force with the public hearing?
Right, would the task force be monitoring the state action?
Oh.
Monitoring, like, what's their role? Is it to be
Abs-
advisors to the town of Dayton as a whole on what's going on?
Absolutely,
Okay.
and the reason I think that that's the best way to go forward is, I'm not sure if the Board of Health, which is, separated now, has their own ideas for regulation, local regulations.
When you mentioned the two chiefs, I wrote downtown nurse, Board of Health rep.
Yeah, so, and that, yes, absolutely, the public health nurse should definitely be involved. I would leave the decision to the Board of Health, like, my proposal is having one or two members of the Board of Selectmen on there, and then having one member from like Planning Board, Board of Health, and if they want to choose the public health nurse or a member, or
So
she
are
could
we
be on
re-
it too.
So you're ready to make a recommendation on who should?
I don't want to name people.
No, you don't have to name people, but in
Yeah.
order to get this started, and then once
Yes.
the task force gets in place, if they want
Sure.
to bring additional people in, they can.
Sure.
But at
I'll
least-
make what I think is best, and then I'm sure everybody has opinions. So based on the recommendation in the policy book, I tweaked it a little. I think either one or two members of the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, police chief, fire chief, one planning board member, one zoning board member, and one Board of Health member. And so that's the extent.
And the town nurse.
And the public, absolutely, town nurse, Nurse Collins.
Are you presenting that in form of a motion to establish this task force?
Well, before we do that, I want to hear what you and Selectman Goulart
I
think about it,
agree.
and town
I
administrator.
agree. Also, I'd have to think I know there was other suggestions that you have a medical marijuana user and a,
That's optional.
yeah,
I mean,
and we'll let, I would say.
I don't
we'll
want
let
to
the-
out anyone either.
No, we can let the task force determine if they think that's necessary.
I think that's valid, absolutely.
And then I think that, like most task forces or committees or whatever, once they get established, we'd ask them to come back to us very quickly after that to tell us what they see their mission as and their goals and stuff.
I will
We would
say,
have to approve a charge.
That's what I mean. yeah.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
We'd like them to, yeah.
The other thing I want everyone to keep in mind is now, obviously, the town can choose to go in the direction of they're going to permit adult use licensees, or they're going to ban it. There is the option to postpone it until June 1st, until you can get something in place as well. So that's also an
That's not
option.
very far away.
So
Sure.
this is part of my concern. So this town, Dayton, voted as you reported last meeting, in favor of recreational marijuana use. So that
Correct.
sets us on a certain track if we were going to.
Try to ban it, for example.
Yes, exactly.
It-
So,
it's tough.
and deadlines. It is tough, and there's lots of deadlines. I'm envisioning, and I just want to make sure, that this task force would weigh that.
I would hope
Okay,
so.
so that's part of their build-up.
Take all the
Okay.
information,
And come up with some
And come up with a
plan.
recommendation.
Absolutely,
Okay, great, so,
absolutely.
yes,
But I-
time is of the essence.
to your point, and if they come back and they recommend we should ban it, just so everybody knows, because it was voted yes, it's a little trickier. It would require a ballot vote and also a vote of the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
But we can do whatever we want, whatever anybody,
But I think that
whatever
we-
they
And
recommend.
it might be helpful, once this task force is set up, to hold a public hearing on that. I mean, there's lots for them to do, so, and I would just caution, if it's a multiple members of the Board of Selectmen, you might run into some issues.
Correct.
I think it
So
should be
just-
one, quite frankly.
Okay.
Congratulations, Brett. I'm just kidding.
So I think also just, I think the fact that we'll have Board of Selectmen and our town administrator on it, it'll keep it on track very closely.
Sure.
So you want to present that, or somebody in?
Before we actually name a committee, a marijuana policy task force, what do you think about sending out an email to the people that we've mentioned?
Yes,
Say, this is a
absolutely.
proposal, do you have any feedback or comment? Would you be willing to serve? And can you think of anyone else that should be involved?
And I'd like to also invite them to this hearing, if they are, if they happen to be interested, as you mentioned the
well,
chiefs were.
The other
to
thing
come.
is, I got a email from Marcia Bennis, Mass Association of Health Boards. I mentioned this before. Shortly, there will be a notice come out that this association is going to have a morning session at Newton Wellesley Hospital in March.
Okay.
And I think the morning session focuses on, I had said, their position is that the new legislation violates existing state law, but there will be something after lunch. So as soon as I get that, I'll pass that out. But Brett and I have attended some of their sessions. They're excellent, excellent. So I just let you know that, too.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a weekday, and it's 9 o'clock at Newton Wellesley, so I know that.
So I would entertain a motion to
Form a
create
task
the
force.
task force and appoint these positions, and then leave it to
Them
to
to pick
decide who they
amongst
want.
themselves, sure.
And also, as Ms. Gulart said, to make recommendations for other people.
Instead of appointing the task force, I think what we should vote on is to send an email to these positions, not
Like the board in
fire
general?
chief, police chief, towners. We send it out to them and say, this is a proposed membership list for the marijuana policy task force that we are in the process of forming, and we would like your feedback. Can you think of anyone else that should be involved? And would you, if asked, would you consider serving? I don't want them to think we're sending out and telling them,
Telling
you're
them they have to
appointed,
join,
and they're
of
like,
course.
what?
Yeah, well, okay.
What?
We don't have much time, that's my concern. is
Yeah,
we
but
have-
I think,
So we'll put a timeline on
if,
this
the-
for next
if-
meeting, for next week.
Yeah,
next
Yeah,
week.
and just if Mrs. Aaronstein is willing to send out the letter, the email, and she can report back on that as part of her report.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm going to make a motion.
Can I say one,
Yep,
one thing?
yep.
The other thing is, perhaps we can develop a rather brief charge to this.
I'll summarize some of the, I'm sure these are key points that can highlight, and I can, I'm sure there are some key points I can highlight.
So if this topic is an agenda for next week, we can take care of the feedback and also a draft charge for this task force.
Right.
Make the appointments.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that the police and fire chiefs, town nurse, a representative from the board, chairman of the Board of Health, Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Zoning Board, and the town administrator receive an email relative to potential membership on the marijuana policy task force.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Oh, I just wanted to mention, the policy booklet recommends town attorney. I would just hope that
hoc.
anything goes through town council before we make any decisions. I think that's probably okay. All right.
Okay, any further discussion? If none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries, thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. You're gonna be our rep, you know that. In case you didn't figure that out yet.
Nominating him.
I'm okay with that. We got this.
The guy that makes the suggestion gets the
Yeah,
award.
duly noted going forward.
Okay, you wanna hit,
It's like a deterrent to bring anything up. I don't know.
Yeah,
you want to,
empty agendas.
briefly talk about the Bristol County?
Okay. Last week, I received a phone call from Mr. Kitchen, who is the chairman of the Bristol County Commissioners. It's also, and the commissioners are also members of the Board of Trustees
At the Board of Trustees
of the Bristol County Agricultural High School. We voted on January the 6th to approve the bond, expansion of the facilities at the school, renovation and new construction. This was option C, that was $103,750 million. There was a question about the quorum, because we need 51% in order to have any action taken. We were under the quorum until a representative from Freetown arrived. Unfortunately, he was the town administrator and not an elected official. In Bristol County, it has to be an elected selectman from any community, from every community, who can send somebody. And my understanding is, based on the letter, a mayor can send a delegate, but it has to be an elected official for the most part. So they checked around, and this person was designated by the chairman of the Board of Selectmen from that community. So we took the action, and it passed by a majority vote. However, the strict interpretation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 35, Section 23B, is that the representative must be a member of the Board of Selectmen or the Town Council, applying ordinary rules of statutory construction. When the legislature intended to authorize delegation, it specifically said, in the case of cities, which would imply a town cannot designate an alternate to a Board of Selectmen member. The reason why they thought they could do this is because the county of Norfolk has been allowed to do it, but when they found out the county of Norfolk got special legislation passed that will allow the selectmen to send a non-elected delegate. So, before going to bonding and going to the legislature and everything else they have to do, there is going to be a meeting on Thursday, February 8th, 2018, 6 p.m. at Keith Hall, which is the old dormitory building. This is an open public meeting, and once again, if we have a quorum, the agenda item is to discuss and vote on the renovation and new construction of the Bristol County Agricultural High School based on option C, $103,750,000. So, very important meeting.
And I'd like to ask for something too. The Selectman Goulart has been a representative for the town on this advisory board committee, so I think it would probably be appropriate to take a vote to authorize Selectman Goulart to vote in the affirmative in support of this project.
Yes.
So we have a record of that. Is that?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen for the town of Dayton authorize me, as the representative from the town of Dayton Board of Selectmen, to attend the meeting and vote in support of the project, with the understanding that this vote will show that this Board of Selectmen supports this project.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
I
Nancy.
will ask one other thing. I'm going to make a motion that if, in any case, I am not able to attend that meeting, the chairman of the board will either attend or delegate Mr. Zagrafis to attend this meeting and vote for the town of Dayton in the positive on this project.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Sounds good.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart.
Thank you very much for take care of that. Okay, the next one is the Compact IT grant.
I'm sorry. Yep, I'll talk on that, but just, there's two items that we just visited, and I don't know, I totally blanked. The planning board request, well, we had this request on here and moved past it because it was
Yep.
no longer. I was just wondering if the board would be willing to send a letter of thanks to our longtime employee who no longer works here.
Absolutely.
Just thank her for her service and all she did for the town of Dayton.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I know we accepted the resignation once with thanks and appreciation, but, Mr. Chairman, I move that we send a letter to Mrs. Heidi Backey, thanking her for her years of service to the town as a member of the planning board and also as an employee of the planning board, and for all of her assistance with the stormwater project.
Second.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think we should also, she was, I believe, 15 years in the planning office. And clearly has had a huge impact on our community in a positive way, so I would support that wholeheartedly. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And the other item to back up to is the financial statement. Did you want to just accept that and review it? I did receive Selectmen.
I've reviewed it.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have any, my one question was, which you answered was, were there any edits that you incorporated from the Finance Committee? So you already answered that. So if my colleagues are prepared to act, I'm also prepared as well.
Yeah, I already submitted my stuff.
Yeah, I've read it, and so is other corrections that people have made in there?
Correct. Well,
There was
we,
only Selectmen Goulart.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so they're...
And those are in there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the financial statement as prepared by Town Administrator Aaronstein with Selectmen Goulart's edits.
Second?
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No, I'm sorry that, okay. Now, item E, where we're at in the agenda. So this has been on the agenda a couple of times because you have entered into a community compact. You are eligible for this IT technology grant. And it is a competitive grant. I've sort of summarized it here.
And this is from the state of...
Right, I'm sorry. It
I mean,
is from the
Massachusetts.
state, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The amount is up to $200,000. There are some restrictions here. We can only do one project, which is a real shame. But we can only do one project. It has to benefit the public, and their wording is having the most significant impact. So knowing that this is competitive and knowing that we only have one shot at this one project, I have in my mind ranked these proposals, which I'm prepared to share with you tonight.
Is it in the order that it's written?
No, it's
Okay.
not. I went alphabetical. Well, no, I didn't. I put myself last.
Before
but-
you do, can I tell you what I think my most important one is?
Sure.
Okay. I really think it's, well, no, just based on, experience and being in the building and seeing when IT issues arise, whether they're minor, whether they're major. I really think that the network assessment and internet security, I don't know which one you picked, by the way. I think that's the most important because that's the everyday functionality of our network, which is.
Are these all included in the grant?
So we
application?
get one project. These are for you to pick
Okay,
which one we want to do. And I'm
Okay,
prepared to speak on all of them. I don't know if you want to start there, but thank you. That's actually not my number one. I submitted it because I do believe that there's a need. I have reached out to a couple of, public. My proposal for this grant was to have a network assessment and an internet security assessment to determine where we are at town-wide, not just town hall, council on aging, the old town hall, police, fire, highway, whatever we own, library. I want to know where we're at, what we might need, what's not working, what could be improved, updated, if at all. And I just, at the same time, security, network security. I went to that cyber security, so it's on my mind. I did report on that last week. So that was mine. The one quote I got back was a little bit over 7,000. I'm waiting on another one, so we'll see. But I think all of these are valid and great
absolutely.
proposals, so I don't want to demean anything. My top pick, if
But
the
why-
other
why-
two
why
want to
don't you
do your
this?
top pick,
Why don't you go through
what the proposals are.
what the proposals
Sure.
are, and then we'll discuss top
Okay.
picks.
So the other proposals include one from the building department. He submitted one, and this is an installation of a public service kiosk to be located at Old Town Hall. The kiosk would allow everyone to be able to access permits, access the history of a location. iCloud technology is one of the things that they ask you. I wouldn't call it a criteria, but it's a classification as part of the grant. iCloud technology. And this would make processing permits more efficient and frees up staff to perform other functions. This project of his could really grow, and we could really shoot for the moon to try to get the 200,000. However, I will say that this project, where he's, the basic project, was funded at special town meeting. So there's already a funding source for him. Not that it's not a valid thing, and if we can go get a grant for something, why would we spend the taxpayers' dollars to do it? But the next one is cable, and this is to purchase various supplies to increase services. One of these supplies, and Mr. Marvel's here actually, is actually something that the building department, when they do move over to Old Town Hall, could benefit from as well, as part of what he submitted. So that's a little bit of a double duty, but it's equipment that totals to upwards of $25,000. This is above and beyond the equipment that they have come here before you a few weeks ago, a month ago maybe, to update their services.
And what would it,
It's just various equipment to update what they have so that they can increase their program. Feel free to chime in and
Yeah.
speak. I don't need to speak for you, but,
Dave, I have a
You're
question.
doing a great job.
okay.
I have a question, actually. So this
Hey,
is
can we-
in
before-
addition to the
wait a minute, excuse
25,000
me.
that was already?
before you speak, let's have Dave introduce himself so we know, the public will know who's speaking.
Okay, hi, I'm Dave Marvel, live at 102 Forest Street. I don't have to take the hot podium.
We're
The
good.
hot podium,
You're good.
the hot seat.
All right.
And you're also the chairman of
The
the,
chairman of the cable committee.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
So just to let people know out there, whoever's listening, the equipment down there is probably like 35 years old. Ed and Jim did a great job, but we come to a situation now where we have to replace a lot of the equipment. So the $25,000 that was approved is going to go towards a new it's going to go for a new server and router. It's going to get, better, we'll have like a signage. We'll keep up with everything, the weather, things going on. The other equipment is other things we want to do as far as for the town. I can't speak on every, I looked at the list a couple times. It's equipment that is needed. One is, I believe it's a content manager. I know the guys are listening. But anyhow, that's so we can go live with a camera and actually go live right back to the cable.
So what excites me about that is they can go on site somewhere,
Right.
maybe a
Like-
site
like
visit
the
to the
middle
police
school.
station or the middle school and increase their programming. And where one of the main criteria is to increasing public access to local government. Because really, what we can do is really build upon this, work with DR. There's a production class that can increase programming and student-run programming, which is kind of an exciting thing we can tie on. But this project is what I see as number one, the most able to get this grant. It touches various facets of the grant. It brings local access to government, to the public. It allows us to expand. It's sustainable. These are all of the criteria. The public doesn't have this, but you have this right in front of you. And then cost, impact, and sustainability. $25,000 is really not a whole lot when you're in the purchasing technical equipment. So I think that it made sense. The fourth,
Well, I have a
I'm
question.
sorry.
Is this the same 25,000 that was already approved at town meeting?
No,
So this is in
That's
addition?
above and beyond.
in
Okay.
addition to that.
and I just think being able to go live from anywhere is a huge perk, and opens the door to doing a lot of different things,
Like a show?
like a show.
Yes.
Now, do we have money in the cable budget that, could that money not be used to do this?
We do in a sense, it just, I just took over as chair. I mean, I have to work that out with Jen and see what we can take out of that. I'm just not sure. I know there's monies in there.
I believe you can budget whatever you decide to, because there's a significant amount of money in that account, as you know. So, Okay, that's my question.
And the fourth one, our auditors, I guess, have routinely suggested that the town work with the sewer commission to change their billing equipment, their billing program to match what the town uses, which is Vader. And it's a extensive cost. The sewer commission didn't see that it was cost-effective for them, so they decided not to switch over. But the treasurer finds a lot of value in this when placing liens, calculating interest, looking up old spreadsheets for working out billing questions. She has an email she had sent me. There's a lot of benefits that she would see, multiple users for the system. I like this for the grant because it would cover 6 years of expenditures. This one, I mean, that's just what they had originally quoted, and they stuck to that quote. So we could probably go back to them and ask for a longer range. But it's a combined total of $19,000, a little bit more than that. And the town can also explore iCloud services. And as I mentioned before, that's part of this, this
So
grant.
does the sewer commission want to switch to Vader?
They didn't seem to be
They don't care.
objecting to switching. It was just not cost effective for them. And she gave me the information, Diane Curtis gave me the information. It's way more money than, I mean, I understand. It's more money than they're paying for now. And
And it
it's,
doesn't-
it's not their benefit, it's the town side's benefit.
There's no
It would
incentive.
also benefit it would also benefit the public, because they can switch their billing, when they're, if you're a homeowner on sewer, you
If they're
can
only,
pay everything.
if they're only looking at the cost in the sewer office, they're not truly looking at the cost to the town, because if the data is not compatible, labor is being expended up here, and there's a cost to it.
But they
That's
just
a-
didn't, they
that's
just
a-
didn't feel that it was it was appropriate for them to spend that much money
Right.
for.
And, and that makes sense,
It
because
makes
they are
sense.
bearing the cost to switch over for less of the benefit. But, so those are the four. My number one is cable, because I think it's the one project that we would be really having a shot at getting.
What were the dollars again for the first and the fourth?
Building, he didn't give me, he's already got, I wanted to say 11,000 at town meeting, but that must be wrong.
He's looking for additional?
No, this would be in place of, he would apply to the grant
Oh, I
in place
see.
of using what was already allocated at town meeting, and then grow his project from there, because we can go up, we can apply for 200,000, up to 200,000. Cable was 25,000, a little bit more. They were waiting on the cost of one other thing, but I know that it's expensive, so it's upwards of 25. The total cost for the treasure collector is $19,758.75. And this last one for the network assessment, one quote I got was at 7,000 and some change. So I'm still waiting to hear back, which will be lower, I know that it will. So that's where we're looking.
When you said we can only have one,
Yes.
is, if we picked one that wasn't really expensive and one that was moderate, is the grant a limit up to a dollar limit, and we could actually have two, or is it just pick one
So
project?
they specific, that was my plan. They specifically say, limit this to one project.
Okay.
So here,
That was my
I
plan.
agree, so these are all necessary. My only thing is, I just feel like the cybersecurity is really important, because what would we do if we didn't do that? We would just have the same security we had, right?
Well, I'm not saying don't.
No,
don't-
I know,
Like,
I
we'll still
understand.
explore that,
Of
for
course,
sure,
of
because that's a
course.
concern of mine,
course.
but it just wouldn't be funded through a grant.
The other thing is, I just don't, cables, regardless of where the funding comes for cables equipment, I'm gonna support it. So I understand your tact is more thinking logically, like, okay, we can probably get this one, we should go with it, but I don't think it's the one that is the most important for right now, because if the cable committee includes the $25,000 in their budget at the end, I'm not putting you on the spot, I'll support
You know
it.
that $25,000 is for that project that's really needed, because we're on our last legs with it. It's only for that project. That money's allocated for a server, router and everything else, so we can broadcast in town.
But I don't think you're gonna get the money from the grant any quicker than you would from a town meeting.
well, okay.
I'll just say, so the criteria there's kind of like a broad general conversation, so it's most significant impact and sustainability over the long term. So if we're investing, to use cable's example, if we're investing in our equipment, how long will that last
And
us?
hopefully another 30 years.
Right.
No, just kidding.
Give me at least a decade, right?
Yeah,
Go
10
with
years. We'll take 10.
So
Okay.
we've got some
We'll take 10.
sustainability
10
there.
translates to 20.
They've talked a lot about expanding their programming. They can increase the access, the public's access to what's going on in the government just by going live. That one thing over there, going live and having that meeting room that everybody's talked about, doing multiple things with, could now go live. So I think there's a lot to it. This, you're right, this network thing, I think you know that. I'm very interested in exploring this, and I think we can find a way to, for sure, to do this. And I do think that the other quote I received will be lower than the 7,000. So I think they're all doable. The top two for me, because building already is funded in some way, so he's not losing out. Cable, for me, had the greatest improved public access to local government services, cost, impact, and sustainability. We have measures of success. We can talk about which programs we want to add and when, exploring doing a show. Efficiency, cost savings, and enhanced services is also another criterion. And then what challenges does this address? So I don't know if the network assessment addresses any challenges other than we just have to secure ourselves.
So my only concern is that it sounds like they need something quick, and I just think that this is not going to be the quickness that they need.
Let me tell you my take on all this.
Okay.
I think we want to get the best bang for our buck. If we don't get this Vadar thing through something like this, it'll never happen.
Oh, I agree.
Because it's $20,000. The other thing, I think the cable, I think you have well over $100,000 in that account. And I think that, oh yeah, no, there is that much. And so I think you should look at that first, because there's so much money in there. We talked about it for a long time. We haven't really spent much of it. The biggest chunk you just
Well, the
spent.
thing is trying to unlock those accounts so
Well,
we
you
can
can-
buy things out. I mean, that's
you
the
can-
thing we're trying to address next.
No, you can do anything with that account. You just have to, it has to go to town meeting. But the other thing about that account, it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything, because it's CVS, it's a CVS.
But the other question on that too, Mr. Chairman, is if that money's being allocated through Comcast, I don't think we have to go to a town meeting for a warrant. We just
No.
need your permission, right?
No, you have to go to town meeting. You have to go to town meeting. We've been through that so many times. You have to go to town meeting. But that's not a problem. I mean, so that's why I don't, I think there's a lot of funds there to do.
Right, and the other thing I just want to add to Mallory, I think the other thing would help too is we're reaching out to DR because they have a media center over there. They have a lot of students. And if we can bring our equipment up to the 20th century, these guys are going to be moving on to college,
Sure.
right? So you're going to be looking at the old guy again down in Cable.
Yep.
So if we get kids to come down and they're enthused over the newer equipment, we get a chance to roll this into other generations to take this over.
Well, and if your headquarters, I don't want to presume that's where you'll be, but if you have a presence in the media center at the high school, and
Max knows the teacher there quite well, and we're trying to work
I
on
was just,
something.
They're open
you
to-
may
they're
be
open
able
to
to
that.
find people to recruit to work downstairs easier if that's, if you're spending a lot of time there, so. I think it could be. My question to you regarding this funding situation, and Mr. Chairman, you can chime in as well. What is the timeline? Like, let's say we, go for this $25,000 cable enhancement project. Thank you. Sorry, I was at work all day. When do you think that they would have those funds to use? Would it be any sooner than the any town meeting?
I
Like the
don't.
one coming up
oh.
in June?
It might be at the same time. So applications are due on February 15th. I can't remember the number of towns they just passed 180, I think, community compact. So those are the towns that are eligible, 180. Now you got to see the towns that have their stuff together and they can actually apply. So they said that funds must be everything must be completed by June 30th, 2019. So I think they're gonna move, they usually give about a year. So it'll be around the same time as authorization for town, from town meeting.
So is the reason, well, I don't know if you worked on this with Town Administrator Aaronstein, but do you just not feel comfortable? Like, do you not feel like it would be funded at a town meeting if you asked for more money to replace your equipment? I'm just wondering why, do you know what I'm
Let me
getting
just
at?
say this,
Uh-huh.
I'm brand new taking the chair, and I'm just trying to learn my way around it. It just seems like when it comes to get money allocated to cable, there's always some sort of, you gotta follow this guideline, oh, you can't have it this way. It seems like the money's always locked, you know?
But
Like you
But we're
can't
at the
use
point
it.
where we really need the money so we can start moving this equipment around.
I will say this, the money is not locked. The money is for cable's use. There's a process that you have to go through in order to have access to that money. And that's, you know, through town meeting and stuff, and to get it in your budget. But I'm certain it's well over $100,000 in there right now. That was the case a year ago, and you haven't spent that much, so, we get an allocation every month, so
But
that's why.
would you be, it seems like you know a lot about
Yeah.
how to do this. Would
Yeah.
you be willing to help? It sounds
Oh,
like.
absolutely.
Yeah. he just-
Absolutely.
I think he
Yeah.
needs.
I would be
you know,
willing, I'll help
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean,
We'll get it done.
So the only thing, if you are leaning towards the Vader one,
Yep.
I would just ask that your vote is contingent upon the sewer commission agreeing.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
And also, maybe in case they don't agree, can you give a number 2, and we'll go with that.
I'd like to know what
do you-
you're thinking, Selectman Goulart. Because Jack thinks I think
I
number 4.
think they all have, I think they all have merit, there's no question about it. And I'm gonna go backwards, so I would say the building request would be my number 4. The cable request would be number 3, because if there is money available, all I'd do is make a list,
Yeah.
go see Jen and say, how much of this stuff can I actually buy? And then talk to Mrs. Aaronstein and say, I met with Jen, we got X dollars, we would like to get this because we need a warrant article. And that warrant article can be drafted or a note put in the file. Just tell Karen, put a note in the file, cable
Yeah.
article. That way we'll know when that's done, that, make sure you include the article for cable, but the wording for all of that and the total dollars on that warrant, if you put the list together,
You should be specific about what the equipment is.
but I think between Mrs. Aaronstein and the town accountant, it can happen. The VEDA system and the network assessment. If there is a way to get the town, the network assessment and security done, if possible, within this fiscal year, I think it's very, very important. Police department's already been hit to a substantial amount of money that was a nightmare.
Can I ask
And
you a
it
question?
cost money.
Do we know if we have that much in our technical account?
So actually, I don't mean to chime in, but I had a very productive
Let
discussion.
me just let her answer my question. if you-
Well, I don't
I
know
know
what
how
that
much it is.
second
Okay,
quote.
well, all I'm saying
Yeah, you
is,
can-
Well, you cut me off, so I'll make you
I'm
wait
just-
for it now.
in
You
my,
can check.
in my ranking,
Okay,
what I'm
wait a
saying
minute,
is,
Can we stop for a minute? We need to have order. When you want to speak, we'll let everybody speak. I don't want to cut people off.
Thank you,
I
guys.
also think we need to, so I wasn't cutting you off.
okay, but I'm not finished
I
yet.
know you're not. So, yeah,
So I got 2 left. If we can do assessment and security, if not in this budget, definitely have it included in the next, or a special article. I believe it's urgent because we've already been hit once. Which leaves, so that would be my number 2, and my number 1 would be going to the VEDA thing. And if, for some reason, I can't imagine the sewer commissioner saying, nah, we don't want to do that, if it's not going to cost them any money. And it's going to improve the overall system. And by the way, I live in the sewer district, and so it's some of my tax money that's being used to pay whatever. So I would support that as number 1, and the security thing. If for some reason that VEDA thing doesn't fly, then I would go to number 2 and say, do security next. So that's where I'm coming from.
And I think the VEDAR thing also fits those criteria. I think it helps the overall town administration. It also interacts with the public. And I think so, that would be my number 1 also. Mine
The
would be
project,
safest.
I had met with Diane, and she talked about it, and when I read this and was finally unlocked the grant application, it's the first thing I thought of. So, I
So,
think it fits too.
Mrs. O'Gauffos?
Sorry, she wasn't done. So I was speaking to Karen in the office a couple days ago, not to put you on the spot, I'm sorry, Karen. And it was regarding a separate issue, but it was pertaining to funds in the professional and technical
Yeah.
account. Now, we may need to verify, I believe there's something like $35,000
Yeah.
in the professional and technical, so $7,000 to get security
That was my
now
question.
is a drop in the,
35,000.
she checked it twice. Because I said,
The
you mean
Sursage funds.
3,500, right?
Sursage is coming through that line, but that's $1,000. So
Correct.
absolutely, we can pay for
Yeah, I
that.
think
If
that-
that's the
And
case.
get that up and running?
Absolutely, we can
Okay.
act on this.
Yep.
My other thought is on that security, the network assessment, we're still waiting on what's going to happen with the TMLP connection. It would be nice to know that we've already done a network assessment and security assessment because they're looking to go to the schools, but we want to connect to that. And it would be nice if we knew ahead of time that we've got all the data we need about where we are right now. And what do we have to do, if we have to do anything else security-wise, if that TMLP connection becomes available to the town.
I'd also
Okay,
like
so
to
that-
mention that I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I actually see these things as kind of related in a way, because if you're gonna use iCloud services for Vader, which I think is great, they should be secure as well.
Right.
So I think it's all kind of interconnected. Also, having the, some sort of a, infrastructure in place regarding the technology before we get the fiber optic, I think is awesome too, because then we'll have that experience of bringing in the fiber optic and making it compatible with whatever our security system is.
So I guess we're looking for a motion as to what we recommend for the first and second priority on these.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that for the Community Compact IT grant, the first option, contingent on the approval of the sewer commissioners, is that we take the, moving the sewer commission's billing to the VADAR system as first choice, and if for some reason that is not viable, then the next step would be to do the network assessment and internet security assessment.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good, motion carries. Thank you.
And just to reiterate, this is a competitive grant, so there's always a risk we don't get it, but,
Of course.
No, you gotta think positive.
usually I do, but.
So,
You never know.
Okay.
just to clarify, and separately, you'll look into, the professional and technical account, and then the
Yes.
the
Oh, yes.
cybersecurity as
So
well.
I'm
Awesome.
actually already going with that, but.
I know, you've been
thought
on
I
that since you got here, and we appreciate that.
Okay, we're going to go a little bit out of order. We're looking for a report of the school, Dayton School Building Study Committee, and they're all here. So we'd like to hear what you've come up with. Yeah, I wanted to disclose also, I'm a member of that committee, so I'm going to abstain from any interaction on this report unless it becomes necessary. So
It won't be.
just come to the podium and
So, we've been meeting downstairs. We just had 4 meetings. My name is Jessie Bierman, resident of Dayton, mother of 3. Basically, what we've done is a lot of gathering of information so far. We were hoping to have a recommendation at this time. We
maybe you should
need,
tell us why the building committee is
absolutely.
formed.
Sure. So, Dr. Azar had asked the Board of Selectmen to gather a committee. Basically, what's happening is that the schools are almost at capacity, and we need to plan forward instead of putting a simple little Band-Aid on, moving things around. We're talking about what's needed in the future. So we did some math. We looked at projections for the next 5 years based on a number of things, based on how many children should be in each classroom, best practices, as well as union needs. And we looked at what's needed for federal mandates for special education, for square footage, all of these things. And we spoke with Jim Aguirre. We spoke with the fire chief about the usage of hallway space at the elementary school, and some changes need to happen there. So basically, we don't have a full recommendation at this time. We haven't gone to vote on that. We're gathering a little bit more information. We did some preliminary thoughts about 4 different possibilities that could happen. But basically what we need is to sit down with Dr. Azar and have a good long talk about programming and where certain grades need to be. And then we can really delve in and come back with actual numbers of how much it's going to cost the town, what it means for the teachers and the educators and the children in our schools. And we're also getting this year's information and pricing on some of the modular units that are out there. So we have our next meeting scheduled. We're going to talk about posting that. But that's where we are
I
today.
think, I mean, you want to present, or just lay out those 4 things, I don't know what you did tonight, but the 4.
Sure. So tonight we talked about how we need so much more information to give a really clear picture of what it is we want. So we had 4 different options. As it is right now, bare bones, if nothing changes in where the schools are being used. So as far as where preschool would be, where grade 5 would be, we need more space. Like I said before, mandates for special education, you need to have certain kind of spaces for certain educational ideas. And without talking about having 5 classrooms per grade, we already need more space right now, today. They're making do over at the elementary school and over at the middle school. They're working magic. We went on a tour on last Wednesday. We spoke with both principals. We got great information. But as it is, they already need more space right now. And that's not including the space we need for the fact that we're already to capacity per student, per square foot.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
I didn't
sure.
mean to interrupt. When you say you're at capacity, I know it's pretty well known
Yeah.
that the elementary school has some, kind of growing pains. Is it the same in the middle school as well? Because I don't feel like we hear a lot about the capacity there.
I'm really glad you asked that question because we've looked at the numbers for all the Dayton schools. And what we found is that it varies slightly by grade, but generally speaking, it needs to be a 5 classroom per grade model. We've been a 4 grade model for a long time, and we're seeing that currently we need to move to a 5, and also in the future, going to a 5 will hold us for a while.
Thank you, I appreciate
So,
that.
and to go on even more, at the middle school on our tour, we saw that there's only just a few very small, almost closet-sized rooms for pull-out sessions. And the usage of those rooms is over 100%. They're always used. The school is open, people are in there from open to close. Good building usage is 80%. So we're overusing the spaces they do have there. So that's one thing we did find.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Jesse, can I just add to
Yeah.
Would you tell
Do you mind
us who you are?
introducing yourself?
Yeah.
Ashley Cohen, I'm a resident of Dayton, parent, and administrator in the school, assistant principal at Dayton Elementary School. The building capacities are, so at Dayton Middle, it's the occupancy permit allows for 400 students. We're at, I believe, just over 400. As of December, we were at 400, and I think there were like maybe 5 that came in over Christmas break. And the occupancy permit at Dayton Elementary School states for 480, and we're currently, as of today, we just got one more student at 472. So we're just, just right there.
First at the same time.
And that's not
That's not
with
including
the
some
growth
of
that
the
we know
spaces.
is going to happen. Yeah. Also, at the middle school, there's an issue of the cafeteria. We're at capacity now. We need to prove that we're doing something about it to the fire chief. So that's another issue that we're seeing at the middle
These
school.
lunches run from about 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock because they can't put everybody in there at the same time.
Right. And so, yes,
Well, we are now, but
I-
we can't continue to.
I know.
Right.
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 Well, you're making do, I think,
Yeah.
is,
Have you gotten information from any outside agencies?
What kind of agencies? Well, right now, we're,
Department of Education, New England Association of Schools and Colleges, because whenever they look at the schools, or whenever the last time they did it, they would have had projections into, they would have given the school an approval rating for a certain period of time. So it would be, when was that done, and what were the recommendations they made going forward, the kind of things that they felt would be needed in the future. Now, with 5 classrooms per grade, what's the enrollment in those? Teacher-pupil ratio in a 5-classroom setup?
the numbers were, I believe, what was it, 22, yeah, we have all of this information with us, just a second.
Okay.
We,
If you don't go outside of your own
your own
turf.
town, yes.
Exactly. The other thing would be, if you look at other communities that are doing similar things, and just, I don't mean go to all of them, but if you contact them and ask them, what's happening in your school? Areas around here, kind of like Dayton. What's happening in your schools? Classroom size, facilities, the whole thing. But
Yeah.
you'll get similar, but you may also get other info.
Right, so, well, some of our information is coming from DESI. The,
And it's also coming from the square footage for the classroom too. So at the elementary school, the old part of the building, the oldest part of the building, those classrooms were designed, they're 24 by 36. They were designed for 20 students. We are currently going over that now because our class sizes have grown significantly. In the newer part of the building, those were designed, so they're 30 by 36. Those were designed to accommodate more students. The middle school, we didn't get those numbers. These are like little pieces, we want to have all of the details to be able to answer like all of these
So,
questions.
do you know right now what the class teacher-pupil ratio is and what you hope to achieve with your 5-classroom suggestion?
We're looking to stay around that 20 number, so kind of ranging in between like 18 to 23 would be a good space to be in. Some of our classes right now, we have averages, first grade right now is at 23.5, second grade is at 24. Some classrooms are going to 25 students per classroom. At the middle school right now, their 6th grade has 27 to 28. So they're at like 28 students in some of the classrooms. And then what we did was we projected, we looked at 5 years in the past, and then kind of got averages. So we've been averaging about 4 students per grade level per year. So we took that, because you can expect that the last 5 years are probably going to dictate the next 5 years, and if building permits continue to go in that same direction, we'd be looking at 4 students per grade per year, and so we kind of averaged that out, and we kind of looked at the next 5
Are we
years.
still, how many special needs classrooms? Are we still doing what we did years ago, where if we have a couple of children that needs a certain class, they go to Rehoboth, and maybe if Rehoboth has children that need a special class that's being held in Dayton, are we transporting the children like we used to?
For the middle school, that are,
that's something that happens in the middle school.
right,
Okay.
but not at Dayton Elementary. We have the same programs at
Okay.
both elementary schools.
Okay, thank you.
and there was also projections made
Right.
of the population growth that we're seeing in Dayton with the, looking historically, what the impact has been on enrollment, and it kind of correlates with what Ashley talked about, so we're pretty confident. I think we are.
Right.
I said I wouldn't say anything, but anyway.
It's okay, you're doing fine.
So when you're you know, when you complete everything, are you going to come back and give like a formal recommendation or
Yes,
something like
please.
that? Okay, absolutely. Thank
Definitely.
you.
Yes, you're welcome. So did you want to hear the 4 possibilities?
Yeah, I think just so we can
Okay,
understand what you're looking at.
just to help you out a little bit, we don't have this year's numbers for any modulars or anything like that. We're working on that. We have a meeting coming up. So right now, as it is, we need 3 additional classrooms at the elementary school just to hit the federal mandates. There needs to be a certain kind of OT room. There needs to be a pull-out session room that's not a hallway. And there's also the need for a computer lab because of the fact that testing is done with computers now. Used to be, fill in the little dot, but we're past that now and we need to stay with the times. Also, the reading program that the school invested in, I think the whole district invested in, now is a lot of computer work and a lot of computer assessments. And with the 1 computer lab, that is 100% usage. So we need to do a little bit better there. So we need a computer lab and 3 pull-out special education rooms. So that brings us to needing 8 classrooms at the elementary school in that situation, and 4 classrooms at the middle school for that situation. And that's if after talking to Dr. Azar, we have to find out for sure what the real plan is, because we can't delve into 4 possible plans. That's with just Dayton Elementary School being K-4. The other possibility is if preschool, 38 students possible, come to the Dayton Elementary School. That adds more classroom space and more mandates, because that is an inclusion program by nature. So
And those students are at the high school right now.
they're at the high school right now. So there's talks about that moving to the elementary school, and for us to really make a solid recommendation and feel really good about it, we need to know what the decision is on that. So in that event, we would recommend, we're thinking 12 classrooms for the elementary school and 4 for the middle school. But what it doesn't solve there is that the cafeteria capacity at the middle school is passed.
And I have a question about that. 12 classrooms, how many, just like I know you may not be able to give a specific
Yeah, sure.
answer. How many classrooms can you get in a 1 modular unit?
They come in, they're even numbers.
Yep.
So basically, and they're quite beautiful. We have some pictures of some of them if you'd like to look. They have, I think the smallest is 6, and the highest is what, isn't it 10? Or 12? Depends on the company that, that's all later work. So they come
So
in even
12
numbers.
classrooms, and each classroom could fit 18 to 23
Yes.
students? Okay.
Yep, and also, we don't know what the classrooms would be used for. That's really good information to know, because we need to know what's going to be filled in the classroom. The furniture, the usage, is it an OT room that needs a swing? Is it a TLC room that needs, certain kind of paths, certain kind of handicap accessibility? We don't know that yet. So that's why we're going to talk to Dr. Azar and really nail down what are the rooms going to be for and what are the programming happening. But that's what we're thinking for the second option.
It's really, there's some programming issues that have to be determined by the
We're just not really
superintendent.
sure what people are deciding, and
Right.
we're not going to do all of this math. We need to find out for sure.
You mentioned the cafeteria at the middle school. At both schools, what about the core facilities? We know the cafeteria at the middle school is too small.
Right.
So if you equate that with the elementary school, how's that cafeteria? How are the gymnasiums?
Sure.
How are the heating systems and HVAC systems, the core facilities? How are
Right.
they, if you add on, can those 2 buildings sustain an addition, whatever kind of addition it is? Or will there have to be work done on the
Well,
basic
I wonder
plan?
if you would allow me to talk about that at the very end, but
Okay.
what I can talk
That's
to you
fine.
right now about is the cafeteria at the elementary school
Okay, yep.
has a higher capacity, and there isn't a problem right now.
Okay.
And we don't project that there will be in 5 years. So the elementary school's all right for that.
Okay.
But that brings a really good point that we've been talking about an awful lot, and I want to make sure we talk about that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to be quick, because I know. Sorry.
Take your time.
Thank you.
Give us what we need, though, yeah.
Yeah, sure. And so another option that's being discussed a little bit, and we need to obviously know which one we're going to go with, would be that elementary school is K to 5, meaning that the 5th grade is no longer at the middle school, but at the elementary school. And that would mean that the cafeteria problem at the middle school would be solved. It would involve 14 classroom expansion, because now we're talking about another whole grade, and that's 5 more classrooms of classroom space. So what we discussed was the 14 classroom expansion would give the current K to 4 needed 8 classrooms, and house the 5th grade with 5 classrooms. Dayton Middle School would have 5 available classrooms in order to grow into solving the problems in the future with crowding at the middle school.
So what would the total be at the elementary if you moved grade 5?
If you moved grade 5, 14.
14 additional? Mm-hmm. Okay,
14 new,
right.
okay.
And you would be moving grade 5 from the middle school to the elementary school?
It's an option.
Okay, I don't know whose option that is, but
That's a programming
why
option.
would we move the kids from the less crowded school to the more crowded school?
Because, so we took a pretty good tour, and what we saw is that the middle school has a drive around. It's a lot more difficult to add onto
Add
a
on,
building
I
that has a
understand now.
street stall all the way around it, whereas the elementary school has a possibility to add.
Correct.
And also, the math involved in the installation is around $450,000. So if you install it twice, we're not sure that it's going to make you pay twice. So to add, and technically speaking, educationally speaking, 5th grade is elementary school. They're not able to participate in a lot of the programming over at the middle school.
It also, it kind of solves 2 problems. It solves the cafeteria problem at the middle school and the classroom problem at the middle school, which the elementary school can
Right.
better
So
accommodate.
before I talk about the other structural stuff, do you guys want to add anything about what I just said?
So would this mean that if the 5th grade moved to the elementary school, we wouldn't have to do anything at the middle? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and in yeah.
Well, that's what we had as a junior high school.
Right.
That's,
what
I
we
think,
had.
what a lot of people had, because generally, that's
Yeah.
elementary school, yeah. Yeah. Rachel Dingus.
Sorry, Rachel Dingus, school committee, Dayton, committee member. Mom, too. This goes on. I think we also are trying to think, when you talk to Dave Nappy and other people about the elementary school and the facilities there, that they're gonna be good for approximately 20 years. So to put a brick and mortar on something that is only potentially gonna be good for another 20 years would not only limit us in 20 years if we wanted to demolish part of the building, because why would we build a brand new section? We would rather start from scratch. So I guess that's the long-term vision, is to try to get us to that 20-year period, which is why the modulars and not why we're not going straight to a brick and mortar. And the brick and mortar wouldn't be ready for next year anyway, so we would need another temporary solution until we could get the brick and mortar done. Right. So that's why the modulars have become much more appealing, and they're very nice. They're new, they've got all the bells and whistles in them. So I know when this was brought up in my head a couple of years ago when they first started talking about it, I was really against it and said, there's no way my kids are gonna be in, a trailer. But these are amazing. And anyone would be happy to have their kids in them. So I don't want people to think that these are subpar areas for the kids, because they're definitely not. And that's why we're thinking more the modulars versus a brick and mortar. Because we want to, if we have to come up with a brand new building in 20 years, be able to have that clean slate. Which again, we would have more time to see what the middle school is going to do. If we decide to bring the middle school down, it gives us time to really think about the brick and mortar long-term solution.
I'm not against modular units at all. I actually had the same, not about it being a trailer, because I know they're nice.
They're not
inside. I've
trailers.
been in
Don't
there.
don't use the word trailer, they're
They're
not trailers.
modulars.
You know, some school districts build their whole schools out of these things.
Right.
And you see the pictures, they're beautiful.
They are beautiful. This is an inside. This is just one possible program. There's,
Yeah.
obviously, we would need to be looking at 3. They're very nice. And they can come up quick, which is necessary because we need something by fall. And we only have had 4 meetings because we just got ourselves together.
And I know there were rumors about there not being bathrooms and having to lug kids into the main building for bathrooms, and that is not the case. There is
No way.
plumbing and
comes with it.
all of the facilities are there, so we would not be,
And these would be attached right to the building.
Right to the building.
So they would be part of the going outside.
useful life of like 20, 25 years, so.
They have a life of 20 years, as does at Dayton Elementary School. So everything would kind of expire at the same time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we wouldn't have to be doing this again and thinking of temporary solutions for a very permanent problem. Yeah.
So my only thing with the modular units, not based on how they look, none of that. I know they're nice.
Yeah.
Because I've been in them. My thing was more along your line. I was thinking, not having looked at any data, not having any projections, not having any building permit data, I was thinking that we were going to need a brick and mortar building. So at that time, I'm thinking, well, why would we do a Band-Aid solution, invest money in it, just to end up building a
Right.
building later? So hearing that this would actually be the solution, I think totally changes the game.
Yeah.
That was the first meeting, I was the same way. I was like,
Yeah.
they have temporary modulars that are good for about 5 years.
And I was like, let's explore those, because we absolutely need a solution for next year. So I was like, let's explore those, and we should really be thinking about a brick and mortar long-term solution, so we've got both going. And then after doing more of the research, and we found out that, the building really has a life of about 20 years left, I would never want to pigeonhole us into having part of a building we needed to save, and part we need to demolish, and what do we do then? Like, I'd rather just go clean slate in 20 years.
Definitely. And so there are some things that we need to discuss about, like what Nancy was talking about. So you were asking specifically about the, the water, the sewerage, things like that?
I'm not worried about water and sewer.
Okay, so
Like cafeterias.
Core facilities.
Core
Gymnasium,
facilities.
cafeteria,
Yeah.
heating system.
Right.
HVAC system.
Right, so the capacity of the school is not really a choice, that's already a fact, so we have to work backwards now. We have to make sure we have what we need with what we already have. But in the projections, yes, I hope that we, if 3 years from now, there's another committee that's studying what's going to happen in 20 years, what's going to happen in 10 years, because we can't do the hurry-up thinking all the time, and that's not where I think our town is headed. We need to think clearly about the next 20 years. But the gymnasium, yeah, it would be used a lot, an awful lot. The cafeteria would be used a lot,
But will it have the capacity to handle the additional classroom space? The fifth grade coming over?
You mean as far as making sure she was able to
It has
get-
capacity to handle the number of classes that would be required if you move 5 grades. The reason I mention the other core facilities, HVAC, is because the heating systems, the boilers, that's new, so to speak. So it should be easy to get, have you met with Dave Nappy?
Yeah, he just
Because
was
he
with
would,
us.
he should be able, and Mr. Aguirre too, would probably be able to tell you how many additional square feet of space the existing system could handle without a major addition, whatever, because thank goodness that is relatively new.
So these systems generally come with all of that in it.
Yeah.
So it's just turnkey, literally, it
But
has its own.
Is it electrical? School is gas-fired. The modulars we had before, and they were in trailers, and by the way, they were here a lot longer than 20 years. They're still out here prime time. But anyhow, the units we had were electric heat, not very efficient, but we had them all of that time. So when I say core facilities, I'm thinking that if those are coming with systems in them, my guess is it's electric. Do you know that?
Well, I think.
It depends on what is chosen.
Yeah, those are options.
Depends.
I would think, they should all be able to We are planning for one of the companies to come and talk.
You order what you want.
Yeah, we order exactly.
It's a whole category
We wanna
of
be provided
choosing
with all
things. but-
Except you understand what's there right now is a gas-fired boiler system. So my guess is these are not coming with a hookup boiler system. So that was my only concern. Obviously, it's something that's gonna have to be looked at.
I think Dave,
Whatever
Dave-
he
Dave,
did.
he's coming next week, he's contacting these modular units, he's now really advising us on this and kind of being the conduit in between, because he did this research last year when we were trying to put modulars, or
Yeah.
thinking about putting modulars on at that point.
Yeah.
So he's already got contacts, we're trying to get someone to one of our meetings next week from these modulars to get us more information, but he's involved, and we would never take those next steps unless we had all the. Right.
So I think at this point, you guys, you know you got a lot of work to do, so I think the idea here is just to get
Yeah,
like an
that
overview
way you
where
know
you're
where
at,
we
and
are.
not get too much
Right.
of the details, so.
Right, sure.
Aren't you helping them with the work, Mr. Chairman?
I am helping when I can, and I'm trying to move this along so we can finish our business and get a long agenda.
Do you have other things you want to cover?
Just one or two more things I
Okay,
want to
yeah.
cover, and I'll be done in
Take
3
it-
minutes.
Great.
Take-
It's fine.
This is important, you take your time.
Yeah, no, so there are some things we noticed on our school tours that we would like to put as a part of this project. Possibly some sort of traffic study as far as getting in and getting out of that campus. Any parent can tell you that parking is tight, getting in, getting out, pretty tight. Anytime there's a school event, even just the entryway is very thin. Now that we know the town owns some more of that land, perhaps we can widen that. That's not too expensive of a fix. And
Another driveway is already on the board. That's been talked about when we bought that property.
right, so I think now is the time to really get that going. Right,
Have you met with Tom Ferry at all, the highway superintendent?
no,
He'll be good, because I know he was involved when we were looking at purchasing that land, and I think Mr. Aguirre was in that, and so was the middle school principal, as
Okay.
far as where that should be, and
right. We talked to him about that too, even off the back of the middle school needing to have a second drivable point of exit.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
I think at this point, the committee's charge is though to determine how many more classrooms they need for accommodation, and then all of that will be coordinated with Dave Nappy and
Right.
and Mr. Ferry and all the other people involved, so.
Absolutely.
There's a lot involved in it.
there is a lot involved, and if we're gonna
gotta
dig
start.
deep and look at what's really important for the increase in enrollment and the increase in, you know, the building's necessities, there are some things that need to be fixed. You know, there's gotta be some bathroom upgrades. The middle school definitely needs a dual entry, buzz-in system that goes into the main office. And, you know, exterior door cameras would not be a bad idea, given the state of safety in our country. I think it's really important. So those are just other things that we're thinking about as well as these 4 options. And we have meetings to come, and we'll keep you guys in the loop. Any other questions?
I actually have 2 questions.
Sure.
One's more of a comment. Originally, I was thinking, my vision before we put this committee together was that your specific charge, which it is your charge, is to study the schools and, you know, what's the best way forward. I actually think, based on our conversation tonight, and again, you wouldn't have to be active, because once you make your recommendation, right, you're good for 20 years. But maybe keeping the committee together, if something comes up, unforeseen things happen, and, you know, statistics change, population statistics change. We're committed to having open space in town. My hope with that is, you know, either keeping enrollment, you know, the same or possibly reducing it, but who knows. But I'd like to have you guys, you know, remain on the committee, and if anything, you know, lay dormant, and then if anything arises,
Well, I think.
That's kind of
I wanna add
what
to
we
that.
were feeling as well. And we also talked about long-term as a town. I think it might be important to start thinking about cutting back a little bit on the brand-new building permits. I mean, I am
Look at that.
very, very happy to live in a brand-new neighborhood in this town. Very proud of that. Everyone's got to live somewhere, but perhaps we need to think about what it is we can actually handle and handle well here.
correct.
Exactly.
Legally, you can't do that.
Yeah, you
Some
can't.
towns do.
Yeah, there's different ways to deal with it. other
Yeah,
than-
I'm not sure. Look, I'm here to look
But
at
that-
this,
that's a whole nother
but this is
topic,
the
so-
backstory, yes.
The other thing I just want to add to what Brett said, I think we talked about it, keeping this committee going, because I think that's why we're here today.
Right.
That there was nothing like this, and I think, as you said, things change over time, and we don't want to be waiting until the next crisis comes to make, even thinking about 20 years from now. What are we going to need in 20 years, and what are we going to start building? Because we need to start thinking about that. So,
Right.
anyway,
So we'll be back here soon because we need to do this very quickly. We want to make sure that this can get into the budget.
I just wanted to thank you. I've learned a lot. I'm happy to hear that a modular solution may go a long way. So I really appreciate it. And I look forward to your final recommendation.
So
Thank you.
the committee is comprised of Jesse Bierman, who's the chair, and Rachel Dingus, who is a member and also on the school committee, and Ashley Folan, who is assistant principal at the elementary school, and Daniel Aju, who is
Not here.
not here, and myself.
Right. And Robert Rendon?
Oh,
Robert Rendon.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
He should capital out.
Capital
like
outlay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the money guy.
So I would just say, I think
Yes,
it's a
so
very,
we have, I feel like this is one committee that we've agreed on almost everything, and it's for the kids.
it's a very strong committee.
Thank you
and
very
a Great
much.
job, so thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a lot more to go. I'd like.
I feel
don't
like
want-
the rest of this is more procedural,
Okay,
besides the policy, of course.
yeah, the anti-harassment policy is the next item. Now, and I know that we all reviewed this. I reviewed it. I just made a couple very, very minor suggestions, and that was on the original one here. I just felt like there was a little bit redundancy in this background paragraph, and I thought the background, the second paragraph in the old one really didn't need, because it said many times after that. The other thing other thing I thought was that the purpose should follow the background, the purpose definition policy, so it had a better flow to it, so.
And those were the reason I'm asking, because I didn't have time. I know
Yeah,
we
yeah,
got these
I know.
revisions at like 2. I've read through the policy. I already gave Town Administrator Aaronstein, I know Selectman Goulart did as well. That being said, from my end, if those are the only 2 changes
Yeah.
that you made recently, I'm okay with it, and I'm,
Just one other thing I changed, in the formal procedure for.
oh, there's something else.
Just a very minor
Just
thing.
kidding.
It said schedule a closed-door hearing, and I think it should say schedule an executive session.
Okay, yep.
So, that's
I don't know if Selectman Goulart has more.
Any other thoughts?
The only thing that I said after I submitted my stuff, and I had made a comment, once this board initially okays the draft, because I don't think we're ready to vote on a final policy, the next step is that this should go out to the union reps, because we
Yes,
want to make
exactly.
sure there's nothing in here that will violate anyone's concerns about contract language.
So, you probably just need a motion to do that, is to take this draft before we even read it or vote on it, and send it out to the various unions and have them look at it with any comment.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve as an initial draft the anti-harassment policy that has been presented, and that the town administrator forward this to the various unions for review and feedback.
Second.
Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the next item is Mr. Ferry, the highway superintendent, is requesting permission to overexpend his snow removal budget
Mr.
because of
Chairman,
all we've had.
I will make a motion that we grant permission to the superintendent of streets to overexpend his snow and ice removal budget for FY '18.
Second.
Yeah, just want to say, this happens every year, I believe.
And it's the only account you can overexpend by law.
Right, so, so,
And this also will go to the Finance Committee for their vote as
Right.
well.
okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving along.
Keep that molasses flowing, Mr. Ferry.
Spend wisely, Mr. Ferry.
I just told Bill, I can't believe how much salt costs. Crazy, it's crazy.
A lot.
It's coming all the way from Egypt.
Yeah, I know. I just signed an invoice for $60,000 for salt. But you do a great job, so it's worth every dime. Okay, we have a figure increase for the DR school assessment. Why don't you explain what that was about?
Yes, so I had sent correspondence to all of you just to let you know, and Catherine Antonellis,